Matt, what's your take? There has been maybe some softening around the edges with some comments that we've heard recently from some people that are stepping down. But this is a drastically changed relationship than it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, thank you, and good morning. I think the rivalry between the United States and the PRC is likely only to become more pronounced and more intense as time goes on, even if we see a softening in some rhetoric, mostly around focus on domestic issues, but also on an effort by both sides to convince other powers around the world that they're the ones who are responsible and it's the other side's fault.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that the arrangement that the United States and the PRC sort of came into about 3 decades ago to integrate Beijing into the global economy, the circumstances for that are beginning to break down. Right, the idea that for the United States that the PRC would converge with the United States in a market economy and an international system which privileged democracies. That's just no longer the case, and both sides increasingly see their national interests and national security concerns to be foremost in the relationship, and each side that is likely just going to continue as time goes on, and that's going to have important ramifications, I think, for businesses that have spent the last 3 decades establishing themselves in the PRC and hyper concentrating their manufacturing there.
We mentioned Tesla and Apple at the top, but you also think of companies like a Starbucks, like a Nike, that have built up so much of either their manufacturing or their business there. Is it your expectation that this is just going to be a much less friendly place for business and that those companies need to look to other markets?
Well, I think there's a bit of a difference between those who operate in China for the China market, and I think to a certain degree, time will tell whether or not the Chinese Communist Party allows them to continue to operate. I think there's a good reason to believe that they'll continue to operate there and be able to make profits. I think the real challenge is for those companies that have chosen to sort of hyper concentrate their manufacturing inside the PRC to sell to the rest of the world. And in that case, there are going to be pressures for them to diversify and find alternatives for their manufacturing and to ensure that their supply chains are not completely dependent upon the whims of Beijing.
I think maybe the bigger issue is trying to walk a fine line. If these are two nations where hostilities are ramping up, how do you walk a fine line and not irritate either one of those administrations or either one of those consumer bodies?
Well, and I think it's also good to keep in mind that this is not just a U.S. PRC dynamic. This is a Japan PRC dynamic, and increasingly a EU, a European Union, and PRC dynamic. The rival and hostility that is rising is not just simply a U.S. dynamic.
So two markets, China or everybody else.
I suspect that is the outcome that we're going to see. And of course, that is going to be a costly transition. But we've gone through costly transitions before. It's going to be particularly difficult on incumbents who have made an awful lot of investments in the way in which the world worked for the last 30 years. Yeah. But new companies and new entrants will find opportunities, those that don't have those sunk costs, and those who are able to make new investments in other places. Yeah, if I were looking at Southeast Asia, South Asia, Latin America, these are the places that are going to be the winners as this rivalry unfolds.